All right. Okay, well, hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar. We are excited to have Avid Exchange on with us as we discuss the 5 trends that finance leaders need to know for 2024. Gotten the chance to see this presentation. I think it looks really cool and I'm excited for you guys to get something good out of it. So before we get started, quick reminder, we actively encourage participation in all of our Inovia sessions. So please feel free to use either the chat window or the Q&A up top and put in your comments as we go throughout the presentation and we will get those answered. So without further ado, I will pass it off to Chandler and Jack to kick us off today.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tim. As Tim just mentioned, we will be able to, see the questions that you submit and should be able to address those while going through the presentation. So just a little bit about us really quick. My name is Chandler Watts. I am an alliance manager here at Avid Exchange, and I have been fortunate enough to, work with Novia in many different aspects of the business over a number of years. Jack, I'll pass it over to you really quick for a quick intro.
All right, thank you very much, Chandler. My name is Jack Clark. I'm a senior solution consultant here with Avid Exchange, working with our Microsoft customers. So looking forward to the presentation today.
Awesome. Good deal. So just a little bit as far as topics for today, we are happy to present the results of our latest survey that we conducted back in September amongst leaders in the finance industry. So we'll cover what they reported from that when it comes to top priorities and current challenges that they're facing. And then we'll dive into their top 5, trends that they are seeing from a finance leader perspective and going into the new year. After that, I'll be passing it back over to Jack, who's going to tell you just a little bit more about Avid and how we can make sure your team is on track to meet your proper goals when it comes to the automation of your accounts payable process. And then, like I said, towards the end, we'll be able to have some time to just wrap up and answer a few questions from the audience. So first things first, we're going to jump right into the top priorities and challenges that everybody was facing this year and what we plan to solve going into 2024. So I'm going to put on my little Steve Harvey hat here and just let you know what the survey said. So as you're looking at this, please keep in mind that we did ask about 500 financial executives at middle market companies what they're seeing as their team's biggest concern. So as to no surprise, I think it's number one is obviously going to be security fraud and phishing attempts. This is something where I feel like for the past decade, almost every business that I've been at, that they are constantly trying to make you take tests when it comes to phishing attempts, different types of security, malware, ransomware, and this is something that truly every day they get better at these attacks. They get more under the radar. The phishing attempts is definitely something that is obviously a main concern. Now, moving on, the data management did come in as a very close second. And then lastly, the digital skills gaps of teammates. So if there's anything that's obviously in common with these top 3, it all has to do with things that are digital, right? So it is security and fraud, the actual data management, which is also going to be digital inside your business, and then just the different gaps inside of your team. So moving on, now we've got the different priorities. And the priorities here are going to definitely be a little, similar to the concerns. 29% did say that, the data protection, security, and the regulatory compliance that we talked about, that everybody's been making you take these tests over and over, as well as the true digital transformation, obviously, which is probably the biggest buzzword in the industry for, again, over the decade, right? Digital transformation. What are we going to do to digitally transform our business to make it more efficient? So those are the things that are going to be at the top of the list for 2024. And then, going right into that digital transformation, second is going to be creating operational efficiencies, which is going to obviously attract and retain top talent inside your business. Now, based on these concerns and priorities, there are 5 different trends that we are expecting to see moving into the new year, and we're going to touch on those right now. So number 1, I think this is something that everybody's probably constantly getting beat over the head with, and that is AI, artificial intelligence. One of my personal favorite things that I have been told about artificial intelligence is that a lot of people think that they are replacing jobs, and I do not think that's the case. They are definitely replacing tasks, but you still do need that, individual in that role to perform that job and, make it as efficient as possible with obviously the value adds of a true human, right? So again, it's everybody's favorite buzzword. 72% of people that surveyed said their department is currently using AI in some fashion. And then another 16% said that they do have plans to utilize AI in 2024. So what we really wanted to know is for those currently using artificial intelligence at work, what are they using it for? So you can see the rankings here, but I don't think it's any surprise that the highest use is going to be for customer service. Generally, AI can be used to automate tasks and improve decision making and identify fraud. So as you can see, those, we're kind of already getting into some of the, concerns that we talked about as far as improving that decision making and identifying fraud, right? Now, in 2024, we can expect to see even more widespread adoption of the AI in finance businesses as we're, again, looking to create more efficiencies and augment team performance and improve their bottom line, which is, I know, is everybody's goal at the end of the day. Now, however, finance leaders need to be aware of the associated risks like inaccuracies, the biasness, and which highlight the importance of your training and teammates how to use these new technologies to minimize error. So again, we've really want to touch on how important training is inside your team, whether it comes to AI, digital transformation, or anything else that your business might be bringing on board that is going to, at the end of the day, make your team more efficient. So trend number 2, again, this is something that I think is, not necessarily the elephant in the room, but absolutely top of mind, especially for people in the technology industry like us. And that is going to be the remote and, hybrid work options, which, in turn have, truly driven lots of growth inside companies. So the remote work debate continues, and there is new research that shows that company with more flexible work policies are growing quicker than those who require teammates to be in office the entire time. So to compete, businesses are now having to adopt technology that allows for seamless transitions between home as well as the office to maintain visibility. Companies that offer remote and hybrid work policies are at an advantage when it comes to hiring today's tight labor market. Remote companies aren't limited to recruiting local residents, and they can attract the best talent from across the globe. And me personally, I am, one example of that. So AvidXchange is located in Charlotte, which is really only about 200 miles from me here in Charleston, South Carolina. But just like how we are today, when I'm not on the road, visiting partners and seeing customers, I am sitting behind my computer just like this, taking advantage of Microsoft Teams. So like I said, I can speak to that myself. And me personally, I've really enjoyed working remote. I obviously have no problem going into an office and, enjoying the camaraderie whenever we have QBRs or different types of, sales meetings. But I think it would be a little tough for me personally to go back into an office, every single day, as this is something that I've been doing for about 5 or 6 years now. And, down the road is absolutely something that is top of mind when it comes to looking at new positions or different roles. So when we asked survey respondents what their current work location policy was, 65% said that they were currently working in a hybrid environment. So the way we're going to break that down is 15% were remote 5 days per week. 25% were in a hybrid model where 1 to 2 days in the office per week. 40% were in a hybrid model where it was 3 or 4 days in the office per week. And then 20% we're in the office 5 days out of the week. All right, moving on to our third trend, analytics empowered decision making. So we asked, does your finance department have access to real-time data analytics? 60% of them said yes, and 20% of them said no, but we do have plans to do that in 2024. 9% said no, we don't, but we are interested, and only 5% said no, and we're not interested in doing so. So again, the third trend for 2024 is going to be access to real-time analytics that is ultimately going to empower decision-making inside your organization. As the demand for financial analysis and reporting grows amongst organizational stakeholders, finance teams should invest in these tools to automate the reporting process, providing real-time views and simplified report building. I know for me, one of my favorite things to do is hop in our reporting tool and see exactly where we stand, whether that's something with an individual partner, where we are in reference to our team goal, or how we're doing as an overall business. You know, being able to have that insight is something that I think is an incredible incentive and also a great motivating factor to see, you know, who people on the team are performing the highest and what different, you know, partners inside your business or customers are performing the highest too. And that way you can really have a view on where you may need to spend a little less of your time or a little bit more of your time. So next year, businesses will see a continued investment in data analytics and insights to help finance leaders combat uncertainty and make informed decisions. So by democratizing this data, the finance department benefits from improved visibility for all operations. So with this level of insight, teammates can catch and reduce errors and identify patterns and workflows, save money, grow your business, all the good stuff. Now, number 4, wrapping back up with fraud concerns and in line with security. So trend number 4 is that unfortunately, fraud concerns are continuing to escalate. So we asked, as your organization strengthened, or has your organization strengthened its security measures in 2023? Now, 64% of finance leaders said yes. 20% said no, but we have plans to in 2024. 10% said no, but we're interested, and 6 said no, and we're not interested. So I think it's fair to say that the glaring answer here with 84% is either yes, or they do have plans to strengthen those in the coming year. Now, one thing we have learned is that cyber attacks are going to continue, and as I mentioned before, they are getting more and more sophisticated day by day, right? And the threat, continues to grow at a volume of sensitive data that, really the finance departments, they can't handle that, right? So additionally, check fraud in particular is increasing an alarming, or it did increase an alarming 94% in 2022. So that led in USPS to warn against sending checks in the mail. So if you're planning on sending a check for the holidays coming up, maybe do it through UPS or FedEx and not USPS at least, right? So in 2024, security is more important than ever to safeguard finance departments in threat acts and mitigate fraud risks. All right, so wrapping this up, and this brings us to our 5th and final trend prediction for 2024. More and more of your vendors do not want to get paid, or I'm sorry, they don't want to wait to get paid. They want real-time payments, right? So number 5 is going to be suppliers expect real-time payments. And as you can see here, 49% of the organizations from our survey used real-time payments in 2023, and 21% of them used this payment most often. Now, the results would be 20% credit card, 19% ACH, 15% wire transfer, and then kind of the tidbits of the rest would be digital wallets, Trex, and virtual credit cards, as well as a few others. So, as a society, we are obviously accustomed to personal conveniences, right? I know the second I run out of, hand soap or paper towels, I stay busy, so I really just hop on Amazon, and often I just hit the reorder button, right? Or let's say I, have a headache and I realize that I'm all out of Tylenol, I hop on Instacart and I get a big bottle of 250 Tylenol delivered right to my door. So, and there are a million other same day delivery options. Don't even get me started on Uber Eats. I got an email from Uber Eats not too long ago saying I was one of their largest customers in the Southeast. So I don't think that's a double-edged sword, but it is not a surprise that more suppliers expect their business payments to be that fast as well, right? If they can deliver these goods in a matter of 3 hours, they would want to get paid that soon as well. So this demand is being stocked with, obviously just the rise of real-time payments and the launch of FedNow, which not only allows payments to be settled instantly, but also provides an added convenience, security, and cost effectiveness. And as FedNow adoption spreads, we expect to see even more suppliers asking for faster, more secure e-payment options in 2024. So I think we do have a poll for you to launch really quick, Tim, and then I will be passing this right over to Jack for some AP automation talk.
Right, I just set it out, so you should see it live on your screens right now.
Okay, great.
Okay, it looks like our results are in, and we got 100% for the data protection, security, and regulatory compliance issue.
Good deal. Well, that certainly goes hand in hand and with one of our concerns and priorities. So thanks for launching that, Tim. And then Jack, I am going to pass it over to you, man, and I will keep controlling this slide as we go through, and just let me know if you need me to flip it over.
Okay, sounds good. So as we kind of talked about some of the things that are really important from all of the various different types of finance individuals that we've talked to, how this ties into AP automation um, really goes hand in hand with a lot of the topics that we just covered. So people taking advantage of technology that's available today is really, one of the key areas that a lot of organizations are focused on, especially when it comes to protecting their funds and eliminating fraudulent activity. So as we kind of move through some of the details here, I'll share how these numbers kind of apply to you and how AP automation can really help address a couple of these areas that we just kind of talked about. So if you want to slide to the next graphic here, what we're really going to show you here is just the kind of size and scope of what AvidXchange can help do from an AP automation perspective. We'll talk a little bit about the details here in a moment of how we automate AP, but when we talk to our customers and think about accounts payable, it's more than just automating the approval of invoices and getting those into the accounting system. The payment side of the process comes into play a lot more often now that there's so much activity like virtual card payments, real-time payments, integrated payment options that are becoming more available and more accessible in the business world that have only really been utilized in kind of the consumer to business world in the past. So the number to keep in mind here, is that 965,000 active buyer and supplier customers. What that means is that when you're paying your vendors, the likelihood that AvidXchange is already paying a good portion of those vendors on behalf of our existing customers is strong because we've onboarded almost 1 million suppliers where we collect data that helps us to provide them with quick, secure, and repeatable payments where we provide the level of detail they need to easily apply and settle those funds on their end. and not have to involve the accounting staff at your organization to communicate payment details or field inquiries after the payment's been executed. So as we talk about, how we work with Microsoft Dynamics, keep in mind that, we work with a lot of different customers in a lot of different industries. That also encompasses, the whole scope of Microsoft Dynamics ERPs, as well as, many other industry specific ERPs that are out there. So when we talk about having, specific industries that we work really closely with, obviously Microsoft Dynamics is kind of a horizontal accounting system that can be utilized for a lot of different types of organizations. But where AvidXchange really comes into play and where we've had a lot of success is in organizations that are rapidly growing and looking to really streamline the AP processes to minimize the additional headcount that might be required for people to grow and expand. We're also seeing a lot of consolidation in the AP space when it comes to the structure of organizations. So more people moving to maybe a more kind of centralized shared services type of environment versus having every branch or location or division doing AP on their own and handling their own invoices and payments. So we work with a lot of organizations in healthcare that are really looking to increase the efficiency of paying their vendors and focus more on the patient care and the activity that really helps benefit their communities and accomplishes the missions of the organization, and taking the burden of having additional finance time and activity just to process payments to keep the business running and provide those services is where we come in to help free up that time. When it comes to organizations that are more in, say, the financial services space or the business services space, we help those organizations to continue to be able to expand with the same staff and not have to increase headcount, but also be able to utilize folks that are on the AP team that might be well versed in other areas of accounting, or may have the kind of goals of moving up the chain and taking on more responsibility than just processing accounts payable. They now have time freed up to be able to provide more of that value added activity. So there's the efficiencies that go into the actual company's day-to-day processes, but also helping the employees of those companies move to become more sophisticated and provide more value for the organization now that they don't have to spend time on more manual tasks. So when we talk about how AvidXchange helps to automate AP, whether you're an organization that is really just paper heavy, or is doing a lot of rekeying of information and have maybe a more straightforward approval process, but just need to get organization around how invoices are getting paid, making sure they're paid on time and that vendors are getting paid the way that they want to, we can really help streamline that process for you. And then for organizations that may have more sophistication, where perhaps you have things like purchase order matching that come into play, where you might have to look at an invoice multiple times and compare that to a PO, or have someone that has access to the financial system be involved in manually reviewing every invoice that's tied to a purchase order to find those discrepancies. What we can help you to do is to free that time up by capturing the invoice and already having the open PO data ready for comparison. So we can sync your vendor master, your chart of accounts, and your open purchase order and receiving activity from your Dynamics environment, so you can continue to use the core financial functionality that allows you to run your business and eliminate the kind of day-to-day manual time that's involved in having to compare every bill to a purchase order. So setting rules and tolerance thresholds that will flag those exceptions for you can allow you to free up that time and not have to make a decision every time you look at a bill as to whether someone else needs to approve it, or if it matches the invoice, having to get it entered into the accounting system for payment. We can automate those tasks so that bills that do match can go right into the accounting system with minimal human intervention, and you can spend the time to resolve exceptions where maybe the billing's incorrect, or your internal rules require that the actual shipment has been delivered and received before you facilitate payment for that particular bill. So giving you the visibility to all the AP activity from one place and having notifications and alerts going out to those people that need to take action can help streamline that process. And then for those folks that might not use purchase orders, having invoices across a variety of locations where you might have a distributed workforce that needs to approve, but you have invoices that are coming into, say, your headquarters or accounting team and need to easily get to the approvers and may have consistency in how they're coded, but there still needs to be an audit trail for all of the approvals. We can help you to streamline that front end of the process by allowing as many users as you need in the organization to have access to approve and code invoices. And then through our integration to Dynamics, we're creating the bill record so that you can then process payment to your vendors. So this doesn't all happen through technology alone. So if you think about having, the latest and greatest available technology at your fingertips, that gets a lot of people, to, start streamlining tasks. And where Chandler was talking about using things like AI and, doing more detailed analysis and having access to more data becomes important for your management team and your organization. It's also something that is going to really give you better decision making capabilities on the fly. So instead of having to decide, how do I pay this vendor and what's the mechanics of getting them paid faster, and having to remember that every single time you make a payment to a vendor, it's having the processes in place to know that when I say this payment's approved, that vendor's going to get paid the way that they want to. They're going to get paid through an integrated process. They're going to have the remittance advice sent to them. And if they do have questions or inquiries, they have access to that information online so that they don't have to come back and send an email or place a phone call to finance to go look that information up. Also, you're not going to be in the business of chasing vendor information down. So because we have a service component to the way that we facilitate payments and we onboard suppliers, those payments are going to go out through the supplier's preferred electronic method. And if the supplier today might be receiving checks because that's how you've always paid them via check, we may have information that tells us what conditions need to be in place for them to take an electronic payment, and can immediately convert that check to a payment that can arrive, within, the same day or, 1 to 2 days, depending on how they have the ability to accept payments and whether that's a straight through process or a real-time payment. We're getting the information from the time that you say you're ready to pay to having the vendor be able to reconcile their payment to that vendor much more quickly than any type of manual process. The good news here is that in the spirit of security and maintaining, compliance, we are a licensed money transmitter in all 50 states. So any regulatory requirements for processing payments are going to be covered. We also go through screening and go through maintenance of all of the supplier activity. So if you've ever had to go collect banking information to get set up in a supplier's profile in Microsoft, instead of having to know which vendors are taking electronic payments or having to go and keep that information up to date, we take that burden off of your team's hands, because we have a team that actually will help to manage the ongoing changes. When organizations change banks or they change bank accounts, we can help to update that information and go through a secure OFAC screening, go through a know your customer compliance process that your team no longer has to manage. It doesn't necessarily involve other compliance and legal team members for your team have to be involved, because we've already built that into our onboarding process. So that's where the suppliers are going to have access to a variety of capabilities to accept payments, but also to know that when they need to make changes, they can do that in a secure manner. And for your organizations to know that your supplier payments are being handled securely, and that we're hand holding the suppliers through that onboarding process to make sure that they have a white glove experience as well. So all of this is really designed to help, improve that relationship between you and your suppliers while helping to save costs internally. So this is kind of where if you're, someone who's in finance and is a numbers person, these are some of the stats that will be able to, help you get a better understanding of where you can really gain the efficiencies and be able to calculate an ROI for automating AP. So many people may think about the, physical time it takes to get an invoice through the organization from the time it comes in through the mail to getting it paid and having, uh, an audit trail of all those steps. When you're doing all that manually, there's time every time someone needs to touch that invoice or look at that invoice and either make a decision or have to do additional work. What we're going to provide is really the ability to take the costs of processing your invoices and then getting those approved invoices into a paper check format from what usually accounts to about $22 per invoice and per check to streamlining that so that you're eliminating all of that redundancy, having rules in place that the system can drive that someone doesn't have to, think about every single time they're reviewing an invoice or approving an invoice, and making sure that all of that kind of background work to keep things moving smoothly and securely and in an auditable format are going to really reduce the time that's involved in getting an invoice approved. And that can then give you better financial opportunities to manage cash flow more tightly. When an invoice comes in, if that invoice now moves from a 55-day life cycle to, a 2 to 3 day life cycle from when it comes to the organization to when it needs to be paid, you now have the ability to stagger payments and release payments on even a daily basis versus a weekly basis. So the cost savings are there, and we can help you understand how you can justify automating AP. And then the benefits are going to continue to, reduce costs and make you more efficient while providing you with all the information you need to make better decisions that impact the organization. So with Avid Exchange, this is just an example of, a typical customer. And, there's a variety of different kind of events that might, trigger someone to go look at automating AP, whether you've experienced fraud or you are, in a process where you're doing a lot of digitization of business processes. AP is one that you can kind of put in that low hanging fruit area where you can easily gain some immediate savings. And this is just an example of some of the time and dollars that go into that kind of analysis that we just provided. So if you think that you're at the point where you need to add headcount, you process more accounts payable, whether that's even, half FTE, you're going to then be able to start calculating where those savings come in. And this is something that's going to help to, you know, offset the investment in the system, and then you'll be able to reap those benefits on an ongoing basis going forward. So if you have environment where you're ready to look at automation, we can certainly kind of calculate what that ROI and what the time savings are that would apply to your particular business. But this is just an example of a company that might do 1,000 invoices a month and might make 1,000 payments, what those dollars can look like. So you can kind of just get a scope of what that savings can be if your organization just kind of looks at that from that perspective. And then from those organizations that may, be looking at gaining efficiencies, but now are also, factoring in some additional, uh, ways to generate savings into the process, or maybe organizations that are looking to be more sophisticated with how they pay vendors electronically. We have payment options that can allow you to generate rebates that come back to the organization to either offset the expense of automating AP, or in many cases, including rebates in addition to the ROI that you're going to achieve through efficiencies, can make this a profitable type of endeavor by automating the AP lifecycle, by allowing us to generate rebates by continuing to convert your vendors from check to electronic payment. So as more and more vendors take on more internal capabilities to receive electronic payments and are more comfortable in that digital payment world, we're able to continue to increase the percentage of those payments that are going out through a method that can be monetized and shared back with you in the form of a rebate. So any vendor that can take a card payment, we can convert to a virtual card payment and allow you to pay that vendor through a one-time use secure MasterCard payment that generates a rebate based on the spend that goes through that payment method. And because we're doing this on a day in and day out basis and onboarding those suppliers, we're able to increase the percentage of your vendors taking virtual cards at a higher rate than any bank program would, or any AP vendor that might, have you do kind of the self-service enrollment of vendors or send out a mailer or something of that nature. We actually communicate with the vendors and offer them, a consultative payment onboarding process so they can decide if there's conditions where maybe at a certain dollar amount they take a virtual card, or for certain types of invoices or invoices that might, come through the same processes as their point of sale system, et cetera, may be able to be processed via virtual card. So we'll make sure that we can maximize the spend that goes through an electronic payment method that a supplier can accept, and then also giving options to those suppliers. So there might not be a supplier that has a merchant account, but maybe they are in an industry where there are tight margins and they want to receive payments much faster because maybe they need to accelerate their cash flow. So they can utilize enhanced direct deposit and accept payments as funds that are deposited directly to their account, and then take advantage of additional capabilities like being able to accelerate their payments. So there's benefits to the supplier, but also there's services that are involved that will help us to increase that mix of payments that are going out electronically. And as more and more of the world moves to a digital payment experience, there's just going to be an increase there, where our team's already doing that onboarding. You don't have to bear the burden of chasing down vendors, or calling the handful of vendors that don't respond repeatedly in order to try to get them on board. So you'll see that we have kind of the proactive approach here, and there's a service-based component to our solution that helps to generate higher rebates than our typical competitors or other types of manual or one-time service providers that are just going to give you a template that you have to send out, and you have to do all the legwork. We do that for you. So that's how you can generate more rebates, through having AvidXchange really convert your suppliers from manual to electronic payments. So this is really where, again, having access to the latest technology is going to help increase the rapid adoption of capabilities to ingest invoices, like using artificial intelligence, using machine learning, and OCR and other ingestion methods. What we found, and one of the reasons that we've done some of the improvements that not only help to increase the percentage of our ingestion process that relies on technology, but still maintains the kind of human touch and the human visibility that AvidXchange has always had to our data capture process, is to get that information into the system accurately, so that you're not spending accounting time or having someone in finance that has to be involved as the gatekeeper or the traffic cop that has to look at every single invoice, because you can't rely on the accuracy, and therefore maybe you have to play kind of the gatekeeper to fill in information and then send invoices out to approvers. By leveraging a combination of technology and services, much like we do on the payment side of the process, we have human assistance that goes into the data capture, and that gets us to almost 100% accuracy compared to about 85% accuracy. So if your team has to spend time on 15% of the invoices to make corrections, or has to identify which 15% of those invoices have exceptions, that's where you end up spending a lot of time before the invoice even gets to its approver's destination or gets into a process where you can count on those numbers to be accurate and to then have that fall into the data that you're reporting on for your outstanding AP. So our goal is to get the invoice captured as accurately as possible before it hits your workflow, before someone's looking at it, and before someone needs to make adjustments, so that you'll have accurate information hitting your approver's inbox. And as soon as the system's ingesting those invoices, they become reportable and visible and reliable. So that's where having a service component that takes advantage of technology is going to help to increase the accuracy of invoice ingestion, and that's just going to allow you to free up more time downstream. So when we talk about the process of evaluating solutions like AvidXchange, the first thing that we'll do with you is identify where does the solution fit. And not every organization is looking to automate the entire end-to-end AP process. Some organizations may already have a document management solution in place, or maybe for certain types of payments you've already got an electronic process that integrates with your bank, and you're looking to really eliminate the volume of checks, or there's a piece of AP that you think could be more efficient. You don't have to implement the entire end-to-end AvidXchange solution. You could implement just the payment side of the process, or just the invoice side of the process, or both. So we have flexibility, and part of that analysis will be based on your needs. We'll identify what the appropriate solution is and how deep you want to get into automating AP, and we can help kind of plug in the gaps and automate the particular processes that are important to you. So we'll go through and kind of understand how you are looking to automate the process, and offer you solutions to do that you can jump into right away, full steam ahead, or you can implement more gradually. So we'll work with you at your pace and really identify what you need in order to have a good understanding of how the solution is going to impact you. And then once you've made kind of the assessment that the AvidXchange solution works for you, we'll kind of get into scoping how we can help you get up and running and get live efficiently. So we're usually implementing our solution in it's probably usually somewhere in the 4 to 6 week range of time, but we put that kind of 2 to 8 week time frame in there because every organization is different. Some organizations want to roll things out more gradually, or you might have a go live date and you have maybe a clean cutoff time where you want to automate AP and you want to go through all of the testing before that. Or maybe you're someone that's just going live on automating payments, and we can get your banking integration set up and have that up and running in a matter of a few weeks. So we're flexible. We have dedicated onboarding resources that will work with you. We're not just handing over a manual and having you go set things up on your own. And then we're also there to support you once you go live. So having continuous education, being able to work with our project management team to make changes as your business expands or as you grow and implement more controls. So we can help offer the best experience once you decide to automate AP, and then as you continue to grow and change as the time goes on, we can help with that growth. So if you're moving from maybe an on-prem Dynamics environment to a cloud-based environment, we can assist with those types of transitions. Or maybe you're new to Dynamics and you're coming off of another accounting system, we can help kind of give you a good feel for what the difference in processes will be, and recommend best practices for someone that may be moving to a new ERP. So that's kind of how customers will evaluate our solutions and how we can help you get up and running rapidly so that you can start reaping the benefits of some of those time and cost savings figures that we shared with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack. We officially have about 11 minutes for just a little bit of Q&A. So I guess if anybody wants to post in the chat, I believe we will be able to see that. And Tim, if you see anything come across on your end, just keep us posted.
Absolutely. Do you want to launch that at our poll right now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Perfect. All right, so just like the last one, this one should be popping up on your screen. This is what is your next step today. And then, guys, while we're waiting on the responses for that poll, I do have a couple of questions that have come through. The first one is, how do invoices get into the system?
So good question. So invoices can be ingested in the system several different ways. So with many solutions, there may be scanning components. We're kind of scanner agnostic or um, you know email system agnostic. What we do is we'll provide you with the ability for vendors to email invoices directly into the system, and those will go immediately through our capture process once they hit the inbox. You can also have a PO box address. So if you're an organization that's traditionally been very paper based, we can provide you with a physical address that vendors can mail invoices to, where AvidXchange has team members that will open the mail and scan those invoices for you to capture any of that paper based activity. So you always also have the ability to scan invoices and forward them via email. And then you can upload invoices directly into the system if there's something that you need to immediately process, or you want to attach a document that's come in and have that go through our capture process. You can upload invoices as well.
Awesome. Okay, I got one more question for you. Can you elaborate on the AvidPay network setup?
Sure. So when you think about how you're processing payments today, what AvidXchange is really doing is debiting the funds from your account at the day of approval, and then facilitating payments to the vendors the following day. So from a network perspective, we've already done the onboarding for that close to 1 million supplier number that you saw earlier in the presentation. And what that means for you is that we're typically going to find about 40% or so of your vendors that are taking electronically payments that you might today be delivering to them via check. So that's kind of the average conversion rate that we see from a company that may be 100% checks today. And then the way that the vendors are onboarded into that network are every time we engage with a new customer like yourself and have payments going out to your vendor list, we're onboarding and adding to our kind of master network list of vendors. So as we work with new companies, different industries, different geographic locations, we're pulling that information in and getting those vendors set up and then onboarding those vendors so that any customer that comes to us to make a payment through AvidXchange that pays a particular vendor can now take advantage of that same payment method. So we do the onboarding once on behalf of all of our customers so that we don't have to have someone that might be making payments to, say, a Amazon or a Staples or someone of that nature have to do their individual onboarding however many thousands of times depending on the number of customers that we onboard. We do that once and keep it simple, and then we maintain that process going forward. So you won't have to be chasing down vendor information or have to be updating vendor records once we do that kind of first payment run and a vendor gets set up in our system. We then will get that vendor signed up to take payments electronically, or understand if there's a preference to receive checks, why they're receiving checks, and if there are any conditions in which they would take an electronic payment.
Awesome. Well, it appears we don't have any more questions today. So, Jack, Chandler, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, we just obviously appreciate and are extremely grateful for the partnership we have with Innovia. And, we look forward to, being an asset for you and your customers moving forward.
Great. We got one more message that's being typed right now, so I'm going to give her just 1 second to get that in the chat. All right. Thank you for joining us today. All right. Well, thank you, our friends over at Avid, for presenting today. I thought it was a really good topic. A couple things just as we wrap today. We do have one more webinar coming up before the end of the year. If you join us next week at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern, You can join us for a helpful walkthrough as we go through a bunch of Business Central tips, whether that be shortcuts, learning how to use the search functionality and keyboard shortcuts. If it's a shortcut, it's a helpful session for you. So we encourage you to register for that today. I'm putting the link in the chat. All right. Well, we'll give you 5 minutes back in your day. Thanks everyone so much for joining us. And on behalf of the entire Innovia team, happy holidays and a happy new year. All right. Thanks, Chandler and Jack. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Appreciate it.